Like you heard in Ron's introduction, we have Bill Hunt and Mel Archer with Dry Canyon Art Association with us today. And I will let them tell you all about it, but I'm going to read their mission statement. I can remember their names, but I cannot remember the mission statement. The Dry Canyon Arts Association dedicates its mission to encourage art and culture in Redmond and the surrounding area by providing opportunity and access for all ages to experience and appreciate many forms of art. With that, I give you Bill and Mel.
Wow, this is great. Thanks so much for inviting us. Like you said, I'm Mel Archer. I'm an artist first and also chair of the Dry Canyon Arts Association. I'll give you a little teeny bit of background. You might have read something I saw posted somewhere. I was a cabinet maker for my entire life. I started in Klamath Falls at the age of 24. We wound up in Hillsboro, and by the time I retired in 2016, I had 25,000 square feet and 25 people working for me. So I was self-taught woodworker, self-taught cabinet maker, self-taught business person, and it worked. We wound up doing a little over $3 million worth of cabinets a year. We worked on homes that were valued. The one was $10 million. It took us 3 years to do all the cabinets for that house. They had us bid it room by room. It was excruciating. But nevertheless, I sold the business in 2016 to my son, and he is still operating it. Although in the current climate, it's really difficult finding employees. We had 15 people in the shop when at our heyday, which was actually 2010. He is down to 4. He's actually making more income per square foot than I was, but it's a real grind to have that lack of employees. We had a great business, and we served all over Oregon, mostly Portland, Washington, Hawaii. We sold cabinets everywhere. So the type of work that we did was what they call in the industry real high end. We worked in Pronghorn, did a couple in Brasada, and in about 1991, one of my employees came and said, my uncle is looking for someone to do cabinets for his house in Central Oregon. And I said, where's Central Oregon? I had no clue. And make a long story short on that, we wound up flying over, meeting Bob Mayfield Realty. I don't know if anyone goes back that far. We did all the cabinets in Bob's house in exchange for our 2.5 acres on the Deschutes River in Odin Falls Range. We wound up starting to build our house many years later, and it was completed in 2010, and then we were able to retire in 2016, so back and forth with Oregon and here. In the meantime, we fell in love with Central Oregon. I mean, this is just an incredible, it's paradise. And I think the artists that are in our association recognize that, and a lot of them want to portray the scenery around here in their work. So in Dry Canyon, we have all sorts of artists. So I brought a couple pieces of my work. I work in fused glass, which is melted glass. I have kilns, 1485 degrees. Our association is open to all forms of art. As you might remember, a few years ago there was an art gallery in Redmond. I think it's called the Evergreen Gallery, but it is now a pet store. And so there have been no galleries. So our job has been to recreate an artist community based in Central Oregon. And we've been pretty successful. And I'm going to let Bill Hunt talk about that, and then I'm going to come back up. Bill Hunt sold a few houses in his day around the world, and I'll just let him expand on that.
Thank you, Mel. So, a man walked into a bar with a penguin. It's a great joke, but that's as far as it goes. This is what I do. I'm a wood carver. A little bit of background, 50 years in real estate, started up in Spokane, Washington, got into the corporate world, and my first international venture was New Zealand. and opened Century 21 Real Estate around the world. So I lived in New Zealand for 3 years, Australia for 2 years, opened them up in Indonesia. My boss there had built 10,000 homes that year, so he was one of the tycoon billionaires in Asia. And then I did 3 years in Latin America, opening Century 21 all through Latin America. And then I got a call to go over to this place called China. And they had just opened up real estate where you can own it, because corporations all had it before then. And so my job was to really create what real estate was, private ownership, taking the central government, provincial government, bringing them to the United States, and educating them about how real estate worked in the West. Spent 10 years there. When I left, I was the president of Century 21 China, 20,000 salespeople, 31 cities, in 1,500 offices. And we were trading on the New York Stock Exchange. So I was looking to retire, and Keller Williams poached me, and then I spent 7 years moving them into 23 countries around the world, and in between discovered Central Oregon, and that was 7 years ago when I retired. And when you retire, what do? You got to get a hobby, and that was the hobby. I started carving birds and ducks out of 100-year-old fence posts. Well, let me ask you a question. How many of you have heard of Dry Canyon Art Associates organization? A few of you. This is our 20th year. It was actually founded as a 501c3 in 2005, and it kind of, drifted along, and the founders all aged out. And Mel and I got to know each other through another association, and we got involved about 4 years ago with Dry Canyon. At that point, it had 19 people. It really wasn't doing anything. There was no events, and it was really just not much happening. So we got a few more people involved and put some new life into it. And so today, we now have 209 members here in Redmond, but also in the surrounding area. Did you know there's over 350 artists in all walks of life just here in Central Oregon? It's Dry Canyon's goal to get most of them to be part of this. Now, Kiwanis is really involved with the youth and the kids, aren't you? Well, we are too. We feel that's where we want to go, and Mel's going to share with you what we've just done. But the thing that really is driving us in any community, arts are a big thing, and businesses, that's part of what they look for when they're looking to move into a community, is what's the culture? What is the art culture there? That helps them in their recruiting and making for a really healthy, viable community. And so that's what we wanted to do. Mel mentioned there was an art gallery here a few years ago. There is no art gallery. So in a minute I'll tell you what we're going to do about that. But what we started working with was with downtown, with the mayor, with Chuck Arnold, who's doing the downtown central corridor. We said, let's get some art going. And working with the business owners, we now do the first Fridays. And it is creating a big buzz in downtown Redmond. We started at 8 times a year. Now this year we're doing 12 months, first Fridays. There's a lot of activity on that. So we do the first Fridays because we didn't have a gallery. We said, well, let's go to the business community and use their walls as galleries. So we have Lend Me Your Walls. And today we have multiple organizations, including St. Charles Hospital, where we're hanging art. So we have about 75 of our artists in businesses around. So that's another avenue that's getting the awareness for art and Dry Canyon art throughout the community. So that was working really good, but as we started growing, we wanted to give some benefit to the artists. So we said, well, let's get the artists involved and let's start doing spring and fall art shows. So we started at the Redmond Music Hall about 3 years ago now, 4 years ago. We started there, and we could only get about 24 artists in little 6x6 foot booths. Huge success, big attendance, thousands of people would come in on that weekend. We outgrew it very quickly. Well, we reached out to the Redmond High School, And this will be the third year where we're in the Redmond Commons. We can have 45 artists in 10 by 10 booths. That thing is bigger than Ben-Hur, let me tell you. We get a lot of people in there. May the 3rd and 4th will be the art show. Some of you I know from being there and participating in our art. But again, it's art from not only Redmond, we get people now from the surrounding communities in all forms. And every year the level of the artists is even bigger and better. So we're really getting involved in that. But then we approached Ed Fitch and Chuck Arnold over 2.5 years ago. Mel and I went in and had a meeting with him. He said, we need some gallery space. How can we do it? Help us, guide us. And they said, you know what? We think, it's vital that we get something going. Not just a gallery. The vision that we came up with was an art center, so that we could not only have a gallery space for our people, but then we would have workspace, education space, where we would bring kids in. Our artists could educate the kids, the adults. We would have workspace for our artists to do work in there. Community space. We were looking for that special kind of building. Ed and Chuck said, well, there is one place that could possibly work. We think it would be fantastic. It's highly underutilized. Who knows the Robert and Lynch building? You do, Mel. So that is the Housing Works building on 6th Street and Evergreen on the corner. And so we said, that's fantastic. But they weren't ready to do anything, and so we put a group together, and over the last 2+ years, we have been working and looking, and we've looked at a lot of buildings. Now, there's only 3% vacancy rate right now in downtown Redmond. So anything that, it just wasn't there for us. We were fortunate to come up with an angel investor, and I'm really excited to tell you that we are in escrow on that building. It's 10,000 square feet. We will occupy 5,000 square feet. They're in the due diligence phase right now. We'll have contractors in there this Saturday. It'll be comprised of a gallery. It also has 5,000 square feet of basement space, which is really solid. We can put the film in there, and the ceramics, and the workshops for the people. It'll have a gallery. This thing is going to be great. It'll be a Redmond Art Center. You all are the first group to hear this. So I'm really excited that we can share that news with you. We think that it's going to go, we're supposed to close escrow in 60 days, and probably by about October, we'll have an art center in Redmond that will be for the Redmond community. So we're excited to be here, excited to share our story. We would love to, are there any artists here in any walk? There you go. Be part of Dry Canyon. And I want to turn it back to Mel, and he's got some really exciting stuff that we're doing.
Thanks, Bill. You can see why I had him come by.
I'm just quiet and shy, I know.
So, several years ago, when the art shows were pretty small, we started doing art raffles, and the money from the art raffles would go towards donating it to visual art programs in the elementary schools. We started doing a $3,000 grant in the spring show, $3,000 in the fall. And we did that for, I think, 4 or 5 different occasions. And then this last spring, just about a year ago, we decided, why are we limiting ourselves to just 2 schools a year? So that money would hire what we call an artist in residence, who would come in and visit for 3 or 4 weeks and teach the kids. There's 8 elementary schools in Redmond. As you know, it goes from Terrebonne to Tetherow and everything in between. Terrebonne and Tumalo. And so we challenged ourselves. We met with Dr. Pine, at superintendent of the Redmond School District. And we asked him, how much would it cost us So they put together some numbers and it came out to $80,000, which seemed like a lot of money at the time, but that was going to be distributed to all 8 schools. And we said, I think we can do this. So we've been working really hard. We named the program Jumpstart Art. That's what this is all about. We did it for a couple years before it became Jumpstart Art. And as of about a month ago, we had raised $68,750. We got a little bit of a late start. We didn't realize that the grant funding opportunities, they take months and months and months. And our grant writer, Josie Powell, and myself, we would write these grants. I had never done it before, didn't know anything about it. But I had passion because we wanted to get the kids to have art. There has been no visual art education in the elementary schools. So we took this on as our mission, and we're still working on it. We want to have it go year after year after year. And so that the whole program is a matter of buying art materials and hiring the artists to come in. They're not necessarily from Dry Canyon. There's an association based in Portland that has a branch in Redmond called Arts for Learning that we're working with, that they will supply vetted artists. You have to be vetted to work in the schools. And I think they've already started. We met with Dr. Klein's office here several times in the last month about them actually implementing the whole thing. Dr. Klein, I'll never forget this, when we first walked in, we said, we want to figure out what we can do to get art in the schools. And we think we can get some money to do this. He says, I have never had anyone come into my office wanting to spend money on schools. Well, we've done it, but we want to continue doing it. So it's a all year long program, and you can see from the stuff that we passed out, we've created, we're a 501c3, so when you give to us, it's all tax deductible, and then we wind up giving it to the Redmond School District for the program. We're basically the funders of Jumpstart Art. We're not necessarily the artists. The artists within our association can apply to be an artist in the schools, but that's kind of a separate thing. So it's really exciting to us. We know how important it is for the kids to have art, and we think it's a real shame that they haven't had it. So I hope down the road we can work with you guys and see how we can get supported. We were able to get a $25,000 grant out of the Oregon Community Foundation. Wonderful thing. And then we also got 2 pretty good sized grants. One from Odson and one from Research. They didn't know that they were both doing it. We should have put them in competition with each other.
Yeah,
And then the foundations, and then the local citizens, and we're really working hard to get the business community to support the whole thing. There's no cost of administration. Dry Canyon doesn't keep a penny of it. It's turned over to the school district where they hire the teachers either through Jump or Arts for Learning, or a lot of the schools already have teachers available, and they're able to pay them to do that. So I really appreciate this opportunity of sharing with you. Are there any questions?
Earlier, it was mentioned that before this art center came to fruition, you were putting art in various businesses.
Yes.
Will you be doing both?
Yes. We're gonna continue everything we've been doing and then just make it grander with the Art Center. Yes.
More of a comment than a question. I have volunteered at the hospital, and I really appreciate you putting that stuff up on the wall. I had some connection to getting that done, because we good to have that art in those kind of public spaces. So I really appreciate you guys doing that. I also appreciate you putting the shows on twice a year and having this little space over there for the high school kids.
I forgot to mention that.
Display their stuff and perhaps make some sales. So I really appreciate what you do.
I'm glad you brought that up. We decided as an organization that part of our mission is education, and we invite all the local high school kids. There's several charter schools on the north end of Bend. There's several charter schools in Redmond. We invite them all to participate in the art shows at no cost and no commissions. So we give them a separate space. And then this year with the K through 5, each school, because they're receiving our money, the foundations have certain requirements, and one of the requirements is to have a culminating activity. The foundations want to see where their money went, which is a really great thing. And so we're inviting the elementary schools to show their art during the art shows. So we've heard a couple comments like when little kids see adults doing art, they always want to know, are we famous? So I think it's going to be a really great show here this spring, May 3rd and 4th, with probably, well, last year we had to have a waiting list. So there's room for 44 artists or so. And then with the high school kids and the elementary school kids, I think it's going to be great. Yeah.
I have an application for membership at home, and I've been procrastinating. Could you talk a little bit about membership in the Clark County House? So,
Well, membership's pretty expensive. It's $35 a year. We've kept our membership fees as low as we possibly can. We want to have no barriers to any of the artists. A lot of artists are, struggling to get by, barely able to sell their work, and so we want to have them participate. There's no cost to participate in the programs that we put in, except for on the art show, because we have to rent the space from the school district. But for the Lend Me Your Walls program or First Friday Art Walks, we don't charge the artists anything.
and there's volunteer opportunities, right?
We have a very active board. It's been great, and we're all volunteers. There's no paid staff, so we're work it all.
So we have a couple of fundraisers each year where we're always asking people for donations. And at times we get artwork donated to us. And it's hard for us to put a value on it for like a silent auction. Is this artwork worth $100 or $1,000? And traditionally we don't see a lot of bidding on donated artwork. Is there anybody in your organization that could help us?
Yes.
Like somebody donated a painting, should we put $50 on it or $500 on it?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Be happy to.
Awesome. Other questions?
What did you say you said it's a 10,000 square foot building and 5,000 is going to go to, what was
Yeah.
the other half of the building?
The other half is going to be an esthetician business.
What's that?
It's where we go in and we get all prettied up and we get the Botox and fingernails and skin care and all that. So
More art.
yeah, body art. Body art.
Not tattooing.
No tattooing, no. Yeah. I mean, it was a big investment. So our investor teamed up with another investor and made it work. It was millions.
I'll do what Earl usually does, which is thank you for doing what you do to make Redmond a better place.
Our
I mean,
pleasure.
it's like 20 years ago we didn't have any art anywhere.
It's not going to be boring anymore, Alan.
No, and we've got corners all over the town that have art pieces on.
Yes.
And it makes you feel good.
Is there a rush on donations? I know in the document you kind of say what you're shooting for your goal. You earlier stated kind of where you're at. Is there sort of a fiscal year when you kind of have to have that number?
It's the program is already underway. Donations are still being solicited so that we can keep the program going.
Okay.
So we got a really late start because we didn't start receiving the big ones until actually the week of the art show in November. And so we want to keep it going. So it's already, we have enough money to get it started in fall, but it's going to be an all year long program.
Thank you.
Good question.
Josh?
Do you guys work with the RTAP program much, or is that even a thing anymore?
No, it is, and we've actually just put a notice out to all of our members yesterday if they have any interest in getting it. RCAP is Art in the Public Places in downtown Redmond. Yeah, and some of I think we might have one member that sits on the board. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Although there's one weird thing, and I don't think Bill even knows about that.
Uh-huh.
As most of you probably know, the Redmond Airport is going through a huge expansion. It's all in the planning stages, and we've been asked to be on the committee to select the 1% for art for the airport. So it's a
So
real
we're meeting
honor
tomorrow with
that
them.
we're going to be able to advise them. My take on that whole thing is to have it supplied from Central Oregon artists.
Absolutely.
Good.
Dry Canyon artist.
Final questions, anybody? All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
We got a little gift, again, put together by a local
Local artist.
artist.
Yes.
And,
Wooden pin for a wood carver.
it's a
Darn.
Maybe you could get him to join the
Yeah.
association. Smile, Ron.
I'm not smiling.
You were.
Could be I'm in pain.
You just had surgery. I didn't hurt your back.
No, you're fine. No. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.